everybody, welcome back to my channel. I decided to be a little festive and sit in front of my Christmas tree. So this video is going to be a what I read in November. I usually read like 9 books a month, but this month I read 11. So I read all of these and then I read 1 Kindle book. Normally don't read this many books. I don't know, I was on a kick this month for some reason. I did read some really good books this month though. Let's go ahead and talk about the books that I read in November. The first book that I read in November was Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. I really like this. I read the first book, I think in October, right? Hold on. Sorry, I have my Goodreads up right now. But I read the first one back in October and I rated that one 5 stars. I really liked it. And I was very excited to start this one. This one is a little bit different. She like creates her podcast, Pip does. Jamie Reynolds goes missing and she starts an investigation on trying to find him, and then she uncovers so many other things. And this one was a lot crazier than the first one. Like, this one was not what I was expecting the ending to be like. I rated this one 5 stars. I really liked it. I don't know, it's just like one of the best like YA mysteries, and I just love Pip and I love Robbie. Robbie is my favorite character, and yeah, I really like this one. I think I like this one more than A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So if you're really looking for a good YA mystery, I definitely recommend this series. It's so good. The next book that I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know how to say her last name. I have been wanting to start ACOTAR for the longest time. I've just been so nervous because the books are so much bigger, but I loved this. I love this so much. I rated it 5 stars and I cannot wait to read the rest of the series. Basically, this follows Feyre and something happens. She gets taken to the Fey world. You'll figure out why. I went into it blind and it just made the story so much better. And she goes through all of these things. The story is so good. There were so many things that I wasn't expecting. This book felt so much longer than what it actually was. But the thing is I finished it in like 2 days because I loved it. I'm very excited to read the rest of the series. It's one of my goals in 2023 is to read the whole series. The next book that I read was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is a romance. I was so excited to read this whenever I got it back in September. So I'm very happy I got the chance to. This follows Bee and Levi. They're kind of enemies to lovers. It's the enemies to lovers trope. I know a lot of people compared this to The Love Hypothesis, but honestly, I liked this one more. I rated The Love Hypothesis 4 stars, and I rated this one 5 stars. I also think it's because after I read those 2 books, I wanted a rom-com, just a simple rom-com, nothing crazy to it. I think I finished this in like a day or like almost 2 days because it was so good. It was literally exactly what I was wanting to read, and I just loved it. And I think everybody should read this because it was so good. I love Ali Hazelwood, and I know she's coming out with a new book soon. I don't know when it comes out, but I will definitely be getting it because this one was so good. The next book that I read was The Wicked King by Holly Black, which is the second book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. I liked this book. I was expecting a lot more because I really liked The Cruel Prince. It was super easy to understand, and I rated it 4 stars. And then going into this, I know a lot of people liked this one more, so I was like, oh my god, I'm really gonna love this. And I didn't hate it. It just wasn't as good as I thought it was gonna be. I still rated it 4 stars because it still was a good book, and the ending was so good, it left me on a cliffhanger. But I still really did enjoy this, and it made me want to read the last and final book, but it's not what I was expecting, and I'm kind of disappointed in it because I wanted to love this so much, but I think I went into it overhyping it a little. Overall, I'm excited to finish the series, but I think the series is so far a 4 star for me. But I'm not going to tell you anything that happens in this book because it spoils The Cruel Prince, but it follows the main character Jude, and she's immortal and she's in the Fey world, and it just follows her story. The next book that I read was Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This one I was so excited to read because the fine print was 5 stars for me. I loved it. This one follows Declan and Iris, which is the other brother. This is part of the Dreamland Billionaires series. I loved this. Declan I didn't really love in the first book, and I still didn't love him through like half of the book, but in the end I ended up liking him. Iris though, favorite female main character is Iris. This is, oh my god, this was another 5-star for me. I think I just love Lauren Asher. Like, her writing is so easy to read, and I literally blew through this book. It's a marriage of convenience trope, which I've never read before, and so I was a little nervous going into it, but overall it just ended perfectly and I loved it. The next book that I read was The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. I haven't read a thriller in so long, but I've seen people talk about this and saying that they liked it, so I just wanted to read it. I read it on my Kindle. It was free, so I was like, might as well. I did not really like this book at all. I gave it a 3.5 stars because the ending was so surprising. I'd probably drop it down to like a 2.5 or a 3 thinking about it now, but at the time I gave it 3.5. But the characters, I hated every single one of the characters. Like, they're all like terrible people, and I just didn't love them at all. I hated all of them. They were so annoying, and I just couldn't stand hearing their thoughts. And the ending, I hated the ending. The big old plot twist, I hated it. It was so stupid. It made me so mad at the book. It ruined the literal whole book for me. I swear when I say it put me in the bad mood for the rest of the day, it did. Because I hated the ending so much. It was so hard to get through. I would drop it down to 2.5 stars. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but I know there are some people that would. And then the next book that I read was As Good as Dead by Holly Black, which is the third and final book in a Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I know a lot of people say that this is their least favorite book in the whole like trilogy, and I see why. At first I didn't see why. The first half of the book I loved. I loved it. I was like so invested in it. I was like, why does everybody not like this book? It was so good. I loved it. And then the second half, I just don't understand why that happened in the second part of the book. I just did not enjoy it, and it made me like not want to read the book, honestly, and I wished it would have gone a different way because I feel like I would have enjoyed the book more. I still did rate it 3.5 stars because the first half was really good. Basically, in this book, it follows Pip, and it's the summer before college, and it just follows her, and then she ends up getting a stalker, and then from there you figure out what happens. And I thought it was going to be really interesting, especially the first half. I was so invested in the first half, and then the second half just really disappointed me. So the next book that I read is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I have been waiting to start this series for the longest time, and I'm just so happy I got to it. This follows Avery, and she gets an inheritance from Tobias Hawthorne, and she doesn't even know this man. She doesn't understand why she got his whole inheritance and was written into his will, and so then she has to move into the Hawthorne house, and she meets the whole family, the brothers, and it's a bunch of like riddles and mysteries and games, and I really loved it. It was so fun. It was so interesting. The characters are amazing. I love Xander. I love Xander. He's so funny, and it was just such a good time reading this. Like, this felt like I was watching a movie. It was a bunch of like building of the characters in this book, but I still really did enjoy it. It was so fun to read it, and it was so good, and I rated it 4 stars. And I know that there is a love triangle in this, and in the first book you can't really pick sides. Like, you don't really know. Honestly, I didn't really have a side when I was reading this book. I didn't really care much. It wasn't a lot of romance at all, so I didn't really care. I was more invested in the mystery and the riddles. And then the next book that I read was The Hawthorne Legacy, which is the second book in the Inheritance Game series. I'm not going to tell you what happens in this book because it'll spoil it for the first book, but it still follows Avery and the whole family and everything. This one is my favorite so far. I really did like this one so much more. Again, the romance. I still don't really have a side, obviously. I don't know. I don't really have a side. I like both of them. I think I'm leaning more towards Jameson, but the romance isn't a huge part of the book to me, which it usually is. I usually love romance in a book, but this book is just so fun that I don't even think about the romance. and this one was way crazier. Like, I had my mouth on the floor for so many parts of this book. I rated it 4.5 stars because I just didn't get that 5-star feeling. It was so good and I really liked it. I just, you know when you get the feeling that it's 5 stars? I just didn't get it with this book, but I still really enjoyed it, and I'm so excited to read The Final Gambit. That is on my TBR for December. That's in my December TBR video. Go watch it. The next book that I read was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. Basically, in this book, we follow Stella and Michael, and it has the fake dating trope and friends to lovers. I ended up rating it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. It wasn't terrible. I just didn't get super connected to the characters for some reason. I don't really know why. It felt like the book was moving so fast. I mean, it is pretty short. It's like just over 300 pages, but I just didn't have the chance to love the characters. The final book that I read in November was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is like a dark academia YA murder mystery. We follow Stevie. She goes to Ellingham Academy. In the past, there was a kidnapping, a murder, and they were called Truly Devious. And then there's another death that happens, and she's trying to investigate it. I rated this book 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say I hated it. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. It was really disappointing. It was such a long, like, it was over 400 pages, but it was so slow. Like, nothing happened until probably like 150 pages left in this book. It was just so slow, and I was getting so tired of reading it. But the last 100 pages were really good. There was so much happening, left me on such a huge cliffhanger. I literally finished this last night, and I went and bought the second book today because I am still excited to finish this series. These are all the books that I read in November. I had a really good reading month, especially at the beginning. I had 3 books back to back that were 5 stars. And I read a big variety of books. I'm used to reading mostly romance, and I switched it up this month, and I'm really proud of myself. So that's the end of the video. Again, thank you to whoever is watching this. Make sure to follow my Goodreads so you can stay up to date on what I'm reading. And yeah, look out for the next video. I don't know what it is yet, but you'll see it soon.